Okay, I was wondering if it was going to actually come up on the screen. It was like taking forever. Good God.
Well, we're here.
Jen.
Hi, everybody.
Francine,
Welcome.
Brenda, Tara.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us again. It's always a pleasant surprise when we have our wonderful, lovely audience.
Our regulars.
Our loyal. Yes, thank you. How's it going? Jen, Brenda, Francine, Tara, Judy.
What's going on, guys?
Stephanie, welcome.
Chris, what's going on?
Thanks for joining us.
We are starting out the evening. We seem to have gotten a really good response with the open forum of discussion. But we did have a viewer reach out and said, I would like for you guys to talk about the communication or the signs that your gods may give you, and for various things. So hence the name of the show is Signs Everywhere is Signs. You can blame the really silly TV show lines or show lines on me, that most of the time they come directly from what's left of this brain. So there you have it. Hey Nikki, what's going on, girl? So so tonight's discussion we're going to start out with the request of signs. So for me, there are a lot of different ways to receive signs that I can think of. Yeah, there are things like tingling sensations. I've seen that. I have seen, full-blown ideas come into your head. I've just seen things that just come out of nowhere. Just to let you know, hey, you probably need to look into this. Yeah. And, just kind of generically. So, guys, I'm curious. We're curious. Hey, Ellen. What signs do you feel you've received? Oh, I also have to show these off because it's the law. These are Cadbury cream eggs wrapped in a crescent roll and baked in the oven. Hello.
You're killing me.
Yeah, those are a beautiful gift from my wonderful lady Lori. So yeah, Cadbury cream eggs wrapped in a crescent roll. You really can't go wrong with that. So looking brilliant as always. Thank you. Jen, I wondered where the music come from. LOL. I thought I was going crazy. See, that music thing worked evidently.
I don't hear music. So can you guys hear music right now? Can you hear music with us? Because I can't hear it.
Hey,
now,
Courtney.
Guys, at the beginning of every episode, we always talk about we're on multiple networks. We're talking, on different streams. And therefore, I may not be able to see your comments, but Richard can. We are not ignoring your comments, guys. As you know, we try to get it to every single one because this is an open format. We're trying to get your comments. If you are self-conscious about the comments or your questions, you're more than welcome to private message us. But please feel that it's a family here. There's no judgment. We are all here as a family. If we don't know something, we will try to find it for you. And but if we know the answer, we'll try to give it to you. So don't be afraid. We want everybody to feel welcome here.
Now,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was going to explain to people where the music's coming from. Briefly, let me just say, I played around a little bit today while I was waiting for my co-host to come in. And there is a new section with our studio that says you can add music to your podcast. And I played with it a little bit. And I'm assuming that's the residual you guys are hearing when you come in the room. So blame it on me. It's okay. I'm going to have a Cadbury cream egg wrapped in a croissant.
Good Lord. It's that time of Easter, right? And
What's
happy
that?
Ramadan to all those in Ramadan. Happy Ramadan. Blessed Ramadan. Yes, to you. Happy Easter for those coming up, for all the different religious stuff coming. So, guys, signs. So, I think the first thing, the absolute first thing, questions to answer about signs is that you're always going to get one. Signs are not what television says they are. Signs are not what certain books or certain versions, that you may think are going to be signs. A lot of signs that come from spirit, from the other side, from your guides, from your guardian angels, whatever you want to call them, are usually subtle, but they're there.
Thank you, Penny.
Sometimes they're evident. Absolutely, sometimes they're evident. But it's really important to not necessarily pay attention to what's happening, but pay attention to what you're thinking about when you receive that sign. Oftentimes, Richard and I talk about, somebody pops into your head. Did you start thinking of that person that passed away, or that guy perhaps, or did they put the thought into your head? And this is where things get interesting. When I do readings for people, I get downloads, and I think that because I do this, for a living, or this is my day job, it doesn't mean that I'm any different than you guys. You guys have the same abilities that I do. It's just whether or not you work with it or not. And the same with Richard. Richard and I choose to work on these things, hence why we're sensitive to it.
Good.
We get signs. We get, we get a lot of downloads. We get a lot of things happening to us. And the same thing is going to happen to you. So there are physical things that can occur, and there are mental things that can occur to give you those signs of a download happening, or you're getting message from the other side. Let's get into some of the personal things that you're going to be feeling. So, when I do readings for people, different parts of my chakras are being activated, and chakras are different energy sources throughout your body. You have a crown chakra, your third eye chakra, you have your throat chakra, you have your heart chakra, your root chakra, and so on. And depending on what I am getting during the reading, or even walk through in a haunted location, I get different sensations. So say, for example, I was reading somebody who unfortunately took their own life and they hung themselves. Sometimes through my throat chakra, I may be feeling like I can't breathe. Say somebody passed away and they aren't, they died of lung cancer. I may get a heaviness in my chest, or I may get coughing. Say somebody died as a result of an accident. I may feel that my hand goes numb, and if that was, not to get graphic, but cut off. There's certain signs and symptoms that you're going to get within your body. Now, to get even more basic from that, you may start to notice tingling sensations. You may start to notice hot and cold feelings. You may start to notice a buzzing sensation, or it feels like cobwebs on your arms. You may notice your hair is standing up on end. You may notice you get different emotional feelings. So, you may be happy one minute and the next minute you're sad or angry. These are all signs and symptoms that you're receiving a download, your guides or a loved one is trying to communicate with you, or you're picking up on the ambient energy of the room. So once you start to pick up on those things and you realize that this is what is happening, then you try to break it down to see if it is you, it is them, or it is the residual energy of that room you're in.
Yeah, and guys, that's the reason why I just let her talk, because she sounds a whole lot better saying that stuff than I do. It just comes across a lot better out of her mouth than mine. If you haven't figured it out yet, and if you don't know, I'm the trucker answer. I'm the answer you get when you just want somebody going, here it is.
Trucker answer.
Trucker
I
answer.
don't have one of those, but perhaps maybe, do you have a trucker answer for this?
I do, actually. It's different for me, it's different sensations. For me, the what I call the paranormal interaction, for me, is a ringing in the ears.
Mm-hmm.
It is that spine tingling sensation up your back. And weirdly enough, it is also when I feel sometimes even weirdly feel a pain in my head. That is one of my weird sensations when I'm involved with something that is paranormal, and it has not failed yet. Usually if I have a pain in my head or something like that, it comes across sharply, there's an event that gets recorded. It's the same thing with ringing in the ears for me, same thing with the spine tingling sensation. I can feel it running up my body, and it usually gets recorded in some way as a paranormal event. As far as it being my guides, I'm not really sure how to drill it down to exactly just them. But for me, it's all the other signs of things that have led to, hey, you're not alone. Hey, something's going on. Or you get that real immediate sense. For me, it's also what I feel are my guides when I get the immediate sense of no. That's an immediate no. That's an immediate no for me.
Absolutely. Well, it's being in touch with it's being in touch and being in your present consciousness with yourself.
Hey, Steven.
So guys, for anybody who ever says to me, I've never had a paranormal experience, I don't know what to look for, I don't get those signs and symptoms, I don't know what you're talking about, all of those things. I always go back to the make and model of your vehicle. And if you don't own a vehicle, think of a favorite vehicle, or think of something that you own that you've never noticed before you purchased it. Something that you knew existed, but really you didn't notice how many, cars like yours or something that you owned was everywhere. Right. That occurs. That's in your present consciousness. So I go back to your car. You think they make the model, the color, all of that stuff. And how many of those did you notice before you purchased it? And how many did you notice after you purchased it? And basically what that's saying is that it's not as if you're out looking for something like that. You're not looking for it, but you're presently conscious of it. This, again, is something that occurs when you go through an ascension process. So let's talk a little bit about vibrational frequencies. The other side is made up of a higher vibration. So when you communicate with the other side or receive signs from the other side, they have to lower their vibration and you have to heighten yours and be on that same wavelength for it to work. Okay? So basically what you're doing is you're trying to quieten your mind, you're trying to heighten the vibration in order to receive the download, okay, that they're giving you. If you're not on that proper wavelength, you're not going to receive it. But doing meditation and grounding techniques and being in a happy, cheerful mood, not stressed out, not overtired, not overly negative, those are the things that are going to help you to open up your spiritual consciousness to be able to receive these downloads. So a lot of times people will say they've had a paranormal experience when they've been scared, when they've been really angry, or they've been quite happy. Sometimes it happens when you relax as well, and that's where the meditation comes in. But usually that is after the initial scare, fear, expulsion of energy, okay? So with all of these things occurring, you're heightening your vibration, they're lowering their vibration, and that's how the message gets put across. A lot of times you'll notice when you've had a paranormal experience, it's extremely fast. Okay, the shadow figure moved quick. You're getting eye glances, side-eye glances very quickly. You receive a quick smell, or you receive a quick vision in your head. That's because of that vibrational change and the fact that it's heightened or higher than here. They work just as hard to be able to bring the message across as we are working to receive the message. So please never take a message that you get from the other side for granted. We, as logical human beings on this side of the dimension, look for what television justifies it to be a paranormal or spiritual existence or situation. That's not always the case. They do not have voice boxes to create vibrations in order to give you messages, but if you hear it, they're able to manipulate that energy and create it, right? So, when you receive little messages, don't take it for granted. when you're starting to get those feelings in your body of the different, you could be getting the ringing in your ears, or the pain, or the heaviness in your shoulders, or that gut feeling that says get out. Pay attention to those, because that is just perhaps all they can give you. It's not as though they're not wanting to give you more, but that's all that your antenna is capable of picking up at that time. Your antenna is just not as strong as some other people's. So it's important to keep working on these things and don't take it for granted. Okay. The next thing you don't want to do is you don't want to question it. Stop questioning it. I tell everybody this. They'll say to me, how do I know I'm getting a sign? If you question it, you're literally putting a block up and you're not able to do it. The best thing I tell people to do is carry a pad of paper around. Doesn't have to be this big. Carry it in your phone that you can log it. When you have an experience, write it down, the date, the time, what happened, and forget about it. It may not make sense to you now, but it will in time.
Right. Jerry said, Katie, question here. I'm a sensitive, but I feel I cannot connect with spirit. Is there such a thing as a pause in my ability? Does that make sense?
Okay. So that's a really great question. We all have plateaus. Okay. We all have moments at which we're incapable of kind of getting to the next level. The fact that you are consciously aware of this, the fact that you're wanting to work on this, tells me that you're heightening it already. Most people don't even realize they have a block. For me, my block is the closer you are to me, the harder it is for me to read you. So my best friends, my family members, I have a harder time getting through to them to pick up energy from them or premonitions, because I have an emotional attachment to them. And that's myself putting a block up. I'm afraid. I don't want to see pain for them. In terms of psychic abilities and trying to get more, I don't think it's necessarily that you're unable or you have a block that you can't cross. It's the fact that you have to ask them to give you information in a way that you're going to understand. Okay, so that's absolutely no judgment on your smarts or the way that you receive information. But all the time when I get a download and it doesn't make sense to me, or I feel like there's nothing coming through, I ask myself two things. Number one, did I have a bad day? Was I stressed out that day? Was I being too human? So we have to remember that the human consciousness and the spiritual consciousness are two separate things. Okay. The human consciousness is what it's our brain. It keeps us alive. It says, don't go there, don't do this, don't do that, pay the bills. You got to be at work by 7, those types of things. But the spiritual consciousness is the way that our bodies download the spiritual information from the other side to pass the message along or to receive that download. If you've had a stressful day at work, if you were rushing to get the kids to school, if you're worried about making that bill on time, those are things that are going to kind of deny you of that spiritual consciousness. So you need to separate that stuff, okay? The next thing that I would do is when you start to realize that you're totally calm, you're totally open, you're receiving these downloads, and all of a sudden you get a mental block, you need to ask them to give it to you in a different manner, another way that you're going to be able to comprehend it. So you can ask them to give it to you in a smell. You can ask them to give it to you in a body ache. You can ask them to give it to different ways for them to be able to show you. If you're still having issues, I would tell you to take a break, because you're focusing too much. You need to walk away and you need to do something else. Come back a few hours later or come back the next day and try it again.
Yep. Now Nadine says sometimes I get a sick feeling in my stomach as well. All right, so let me broach this question real quick.
Mm-hmm.
To me, there are two reasons why that's going to happen. Number one, you're sensitive to EMF. And EMF will make your stomach sick. Okay, that's number one. Number two, right in the area of your stomach, in your solar plexus, is actually your energy center. If you are trying to get attached, if you are trying to get jumped, as I call it, they're going to go for that energy center. And that energy center is going to feel like somebody's punching your stomach. And that's what you're also getting there as well. So you have to kind of find a way to discern if it's just a sensitivity. The way you want to do that is maybe grab a K2 meter, have it with you. If there's a high level of EMF in there, that maybe what the story is, you may just be super sensitive to EMF. Overexposure EMF after a while will make you sick. And, that could be for any reason. But I would definitely test it out with a K2 meter next time around And if you don't get a registered meter reading and you have an upset stomach like that, there could be another reason. Like again, they're trying to get to your energy center. So something to look out for. Some definitely take a look for. Now Brian said, what about internal conversations where you hear the person's actual voice? He's talking about clairaudience, I believe. You know, and you're talking to two people that are clairaudient. So, you know, that freaked me out. Frankly, dude, that freaked me out the first time I realized what was going on. It really did. It freaked me out. I had to take a moment to pause for the cause. It blew me away because, you know, I don't need to have a recorder to hear what's being said. I can hear it my own way. And, you know, real conversations, answers to EVP questions. I don't have to have earbuds in to hear the answer. I can hear the answer without it being a disembodied voice. So I think that's what you're looking at. And Katie, I want you to jump in and chime in on this, but I think, you know, that kind of puts you in the label of being clairaudient, which simply means you don't have to have a digital device to be able to have a communication with the other side. They're able to communicate without a device to you. So what do you think, Katie?
Yeah, it's like having your own voice recorder in your head, and you're able to pick up on that energy right away. It doesn't mean you always have to download the information that way, but there are you know, there are methods where you can actually pick that up. I want to kind of dial back a little bit about the previous question. We had talked to the lady had asked about you know, getting that sick feeling in your stomach. EMF, absolutely, 100% agreed. It can also be that you're holding your energy in that space, so in your root chakra, in your stomach, okay? So it can mean a couple things. One, it can mean, as Richard said, 100% EMF, something physically happening, okay? It could mean that you're getting something malevolent when you get that sick feeling. It could mean that you know, your guides are kind of saying, back off, don't go there. Or it could mean that you're holding the information there. You're holding, this is where it's rooting, and this is where you're holding this information. So you're not allowing your energy to flow through you. The biggest piece of advice I can give somebody who wishes to start doing divination, communication, and using their body as a conduit for psychic abilities is never keep the information. Okay. When I first started doing readings for people, I didn't understand that I was a conduit. In other words, I didn't understand that I was only supposed to let the energy flow through me. I'm not supposed to hold the information. When I do a reading for somebody, I don't remember it after. It's not as if I'm in a trance, but it's not my information to remember. I am simply the messenger. That's right. So sometimes when we start working on this stuff, we try to remember it. Remember when I got this feeling or this or that. No, don't try to remember it. It will make you physically ill. I literally was bedridden for 8 days when I started doing this because I was trying so hard to remember the experiences I had, to remember what feeling was what, to remember, you know, did this mean this? It's almost like you're trying to retain the language of what's happening on the other side so that you know the lingo, and when you receive the information, you know what it's supposed to mean. I encourage you, don't do that. The other side is always going to give you a way to make you understand it. You may not understand it at the time, but it will give you that information. So if anybody's ever getting these physical ailments when they're doing readings or trying to get into that communication, I encourage you to salt bath, cleanse. And sometimes it's important to go and have what's called an access bar of consciousness, or have your bars run. And access bars of consciousness, I'm a practitioner now. I don't do it on people. It's something that I learned. But really what it does is it kind of defrags your body, okay, of its energy. And if you're really experiencing, you're feeling choked up, or you're hitting the same block every single time, I encourage you to take the time and Google it. Have a look at it. It's called Access Bars of Consciousness, and you'll start to understand that really what it does is it kind of defrags your body's computer of the energy that you're holding.
Yeah. I'm just trying to look through here. We've got another one from Tara that says, I've got a weird one. I'm using an app to record my dreams, and one morning the words Frank's name on the floor, which made no sense, but the next day right beside my bed on the floor, I found a pill on the floor with the letters AP on it. We have a friend we call AP because of his last name. Weird, but if a sign haven't figured it out yet or not, we couldn't tell you no yet. Signs come in some really weird ways. So I mean, I personally cannot turn around and, you know, and say, oh yeah, that's a challenge to that. But no, I couldn't. It could be. I mean,
Absolutely.
Kitty's got a thing with dimes, that are left for her. I used to have a thing with feathers. It's just weird. I mean, but you can't discourage it. You can't discount it as not being a sign. So it may honestly be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And here's the thing. So signs everywhere, sign. We talked about what's happening in you in terms of your signs and what you're getting and what you're experiencing on a physical level. But Richard just touched base into exterior signs. So spirits have a wonderful way, as Richard mentioned, feathers, leaving you coins, leaving you pills on the floor, or putting things in certain spaces. But here's another great one. We do not thank our guides enough. We take them for granted. Think about it this way. You're getting ready for work and you're running late that day and you can't find your sunglasses and all of a sudden your keys weren't where you left them, and then the car doesn't want to start, and then you're stuck behind, an old granny on the highway and you're frustrated because you just want to get to work. Thank a guide, because they are delaying you. They're protecting you and they're trying to make it so that you're not getting hurt 5 kilometers, 5 miles up the road. Okay. A lot of times people will start to notice that there will be accidents, there will be a change in plans, there will be a detour, there will be something that's changed their natural path. And we do not give credit to our guides enough. They are protecting us. So the next time that you're looking for something, don't get frustrated. Ask them to give it back and you will find it. They will give it back to you and you'll be able to go on your way. But those are little things that they can do to try and protect you or change your course of action, basically changing fate.
Brian Bowden, sidebar question for Richard. Did you ever work in the 50th precinct or part of the Iron Shield at 42nd by the vault? Yes. Did I actually arrest you? Is what I would like to know with that question. Brian, did I arrest you? I mean, how do you know that? What I want to know. And damn, you got a good memory, but I had to barely remember what you asked. So, but yes, I was part of the Iron Shield. Yeah. But yes, and I put a lot of people in cuffs. But that's okay. But yes, I'm curious now how you would remember me there. That's interesting. That's going back a number of years. But anyway, on to the show. I love these little sidebar questions, Brian. Thank you. Jen Dackler asked, what app is that reads the dreams? I'm assuming. And Tara said, sorry, AP's name is Frank. And that said Frank's name is on the floor, and there was a pill that said AP, which is who we call Frank. That's a quinkydink, all right? That's a real big quinkydink. Yeah.
So if I was in your position, Tara, if I was in your position, I would write that down. I would write down the date that it happened, the time that you found it, all of those things. And then either observe the friend that you have if he's still living. Don't be afraid to mention something. You can say, listen, I know this sounds crazy, but this, and this. I tell people during a reading, I don't care if you want to believe what I have to say, but plant the seed, because that's the seed that needs to be planted in order to make the change. Doesn't matter. They can think you're crazy, but you've planted that seed in order to hopefully change fate. I could, if I had a nickel for every time I told somebody something they thought I was crazy, full of it, or didn't know I was talking about, and then got a message or 3 to 6 months later going, I can't believe, how did you know that? I've learned not to question myself. So even though it doesn't make sense to you now, I always tell people, absorb the information that you're given. Don't judge it right away, because it may not be the message that you think it's for or with or who. So just sit with it, but don't be afraid to transition that energy out. Another thing I tell people, I have a motto when I do readings. I tell people, if I'm not supposed to know, neither are you. But if I'm supposed to know, so are you. In other words, I'm nobody special. But if I'm receiving the download and I'm receiving this information to give to you, you're supposed to hear it. They want you to hear it. So it's important that if you're receiving these things, honestly, keep track of it. Write it down.
Yeah. One thing I want to revisit quickly that you brought up as a point that I think people have a hard time understanding, because, they get a reading from you, and it's happened to me, and I know it's happened to you, and you made mention of it, and I wanted to bring it up here because I think it's very important. When we deliver a message, don't come to me 3 years from now and expect me to remember it.
No.
Not going to happen. Our job is just to be the intermediary. That is our entire job. Our job is to deliver you the message that's due you, that is directed to you. It is not for us. So we're just a conduit. We are like the VCR back in the days when you had the TV, then you had the VCR, and you had to turn the VCR on to be able to watch TV. We're the VCR. That's just what we are. We're not going to remember anything that goes through us as TV. We're just going to be the conduit, and that's exactly what we are. But I've had people go, "Oh, you remember that?" No, I don't. And they get offended. And I don't mean for them to get offended, but we're just not designed to be able to keep. We're not hard drives. We're just conduits. So that's, don't get offended by that. If you come to us and go, "Hey, you read me 3 years ago. You remember that?" No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We just don't. We can't retain, like Katie said, we can't retain what you're wanting us to retain, because there's so much that comes through for so many different people. And if you try to do that, you caramelize your onion. I'm just saying. Now, Nikki said that it can feel like a rapid water, not loud, but the feeling of movement. Then it takes a bit, but if you listen and settle down, it'll come to you. Just lean into the filter. LOL, she said, I'm still leaning. I think she's talking about the vibrational frequencies you feel around running water and stuff like that, which is true. And it's a great feeling. It really is. It's very neutralizing. Tara said that she's using a voice recorder app. Let's see. Wow. We've got a lot. Bingo. Oh, Brian, bingo, does that mean I arrested you? Sorry about that, dude.
I don't think he did. I don't think you arrested him. I think he said he met you.
Oh, okay. Hey, there were a lot of people back in that day that went away in cuffs. I'm just saying. That's my problem as well. I gotcha. It's called Voice Recorder, and it looks like an old school cassette player. Very cool. I love those. Penny said, I remember when my mom passed away, she called me by my full name because I was with someone she didn't like. It scared me right out of my dead sleep. Whoa. Mama always wins. That's just kind of how that all works.
Yep, absolutely.
Nikki said, mine is learning how to filter it and slow down. Good luck with that. When you're a person who receives messages in any form or fashion, no matter what you think you are or have abilities to do, there's no real slowing that down. You can stave it off for a brief moment, but there's no slowing that down. It's like a freight train. And it's like latching onto a freight train and trying to have it slow down for you. No. And the more exposure you get to the paranormal, the more the messages come through, the more things you get because of that exposure to the paranormal. So, yeah.
And the quicker it gets. So oftentimes if I get run down, if I've done too many readings, this is another thing people don't realize. It is extremely exhausting. We've talked about a paranormal hangover many, many times, but I don't think people realize, in doing readings every day, you literally give yourself every day. Think about running a triathlon or, marathon every day. It's kind of that feeling in terms of giving the energy. You may not physically have got out there and ran those miles, but that's how you feel. And I don't think people realize how much energy it does take to do these things. And it's really important that you're maintaining your proper health and proper sleep and proper vitamins and all of that stuff in order, because you're using your body as an instrument, right? So it's the same as an athlete or a musician that's using this energy all the time on stage doing what they do. We are no different. Sometimes the energy gets like, I often refer to it as cutting a steak with a butter knife. It's a lot harder than if you had a sharp steak knife, right? So it's not as if you're not receiving the information, but you're receiving it a heck of a lot slower than you should be. That is a good indicator. If you're starting to get physical symptoms, like you feel sick, you're starting to get cold and flu symptoms, you need to slow down. Everybody goes through an ascension process in one time in their life. Sometimes they go through several, even if you're not asking for it or you don't even know it's happening. But you go through these processes of heightening vibration and lowering vibration. And when that occurs, sometimes you do have sick symptoms. Sometimes you do, you feel hungover or you feel, like you've been beaten down, right? That is a normal part of these different processes. And I think the more that you embrace it and allow the energy to flow rather than fight it off, the easier it's going to be for you.
Right. Now, Brian said he met me. That was a long time ago, Brian. You have a great memory. I'm sorry, I don't. Mine isn't as great as yours. And that just happens. You're one of those people that never forgets a face. I'm not that way. I have a tendency to forget faces. For some reason, voices. I can hear a person's voice and recognize them anywhere down the road with my eyes closed. It's weird as crap. But again, that's just my own thing. It's outside my normal abilities too. Let's see here. We got a lot.
It's okay.
Yeah, and Thomas is kind of touching on what you talked about when I supported you on, which is the ability not, trying to remember what your boss told you 2 years ago from 3 years ago or on a job to do. Yeah, it's basically impossible. Nikki says, sorry, I don't know why the autocorrect is so bad. I meant learning, not filter, not leaning. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
We get it, darling. Don't worry. We understand. Guys, I think it's important that I encourage everybody to take some time and research when you're wanting to learn about your abilities, you're wanting to learn about heightening abilities and getting better at your abilities. Practice, practice, practice. Okay? There isn't a team out there in any that just doesn't practice. They always say practice makes perfect. In other words, the more that you do it, the better you're going to be. It's important if this is something that you want in your life, if you're wanting to do these divination processes, if you're wanting to, heighten your abilities or heighten your vibrational frequency, then work on it. Okay. You have to have a sacred space in your home. You have to have a place that you can be safe, that you're, no distractions, that you can do meditations and grounding practices. I encourage you that if you're really wanting to communicate, that you do it from the safety of your home, with sacred stuff behind you, in front of you, around you. I this isn't just a display for me. I use these on a daily basis. I have different crystals, different things that I use every day. Okay, down to the good old holy water sitting beside me. It's important. What people don't realize is every time you open yourself up to the other side, even though you have good intentions behind that, something might come in. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, in my opinion. And so you have to be prepared to clean this stuff up or take the precautions and the steps necessary to make sure that you're staying safe. I wouldn't encourage somebody who has never, had an experience or is wanting to have an experience to go down to, I don't know, Hell's Bar Dam for their first experience, because they're going to see you as fresh meat and they're going to see you as vulnerable. And this is what we don't want. If you're wanting to do these things, practice at home a little bit, and just, make sure that you know what you're getting into. Don't be afraid to Google some of this stuff. And I mean, Google isn't the end all be all, but don't be afraid to Google different abilities, psychic abilities. I think you're going to be surprised. Not everybody has the same ability. Not everybody learns the same or downloads the information the same, but there are similarities to these abilities.
There are. Brian brought up another point too. I think it's important to talk about. So there are dreams, non-details, and then there are experiences that are full details at night, and then you wake exhausted. Absolutely. Yeah. This is all of the stuff that we do, and any ability you have, I call it an energy vampire to your body. It'll sap you, it'll drain you, and if you're not sleeping at night because your brain is going at 100 miles an hour trying to think through these dreams and work in these dreams, yeah, you're going to wake up exhausted. Those are just rough nights, and I know what they're like. They're horrible. But that's kind of what you seem to be contending more with that dream state and that, waking exhausted. That's got to be rough because I'm horrible with sleep deprivation. So I'm thankful in the fact that I'm not engaged by nightmares hardly ever, which is great. I do a dial down method at night, which allows me to be able to kind of stave off some of the activity. And a dial down method simply is my sitting on the bed. I close my eyes, and in my mind's eye, I see a dial from 0 to 10, and a dial is on 10, and with my mind's eye, I move it to 0. If I can move it towards 0 and it snaps back, I haven't done my job. I've got to be able to do it to where that handle goes all the way down to 0, and then I can move it back again. I can put it all the way down to 0 again without any resistance. And that sounds weird, but that has actually been a way that I have been able to block some of the interruptions at night, not all. The clairaudience for me is actually what keeps me more awake than anything else. hearing kids giggle and laugh in the middle of the night when there's no kids in the house. So that's always great. The sound of children is beautiful unless you don't have any. Then that's a problem. So yeah, but man, the detailed night experiences must be rough, man. Sorry to hear that. All right, Chris Madrid said processes, Katie, you're Canadian and showing. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, trust the process.
Trust the process. Nadine said, my husband, Herbie Crespo, would like to know if information comes through randomly, if you are near someone or going to meet someone, or you have learned to control it and only focus on those who let you in. No, for me. I don't have the ability to control one individual in a room. Group readings would wear me out because it takes a moment for me to be able to register who's with whom. And then you've got to drill it down to who's with whom. I can walk into a group setting of 25 people and go, somebody here just recently had somebody passed of cancer. That's going to come across pretty generalistic, but it's happened. So I'm trying to figure out who this is so we can go down the line and do that. But as far as being near people, yeah, I mean, the only way that I have personally been able to drill down very quickly and easily is by the strength of the spirit reaching out. If there is a spirit reaching out, and they can get very demanding. I need to talk to John. You need to tell John this. That spirit is going to take more of a step forward than another one is, which means that person is in charge of that message first until I get their message delivered. That's kind of how that works for me. Does it work similarly for you, Katie?
It does to a certain degree, but what I've done is I have set my perimeters and said, don't call me, I'll call you. So people say to me, what's it like when do you read people at the grocery store? No, normally I don't. When I'm going to get groceries, I'm going to get groceries. Do I leave my antenna up a little bit? Yes, I do. So I leave my antenna up enough that if somebody was in need, say somebody was just recently murdered, or there's a missing child, or there's potential that somebody's been hurt and they're people are searching for them, then obviously I want to keep that part of me open so that if I walk past somebody and there was a missing person that needed to be found and they're calling to me or something like that, that I'm able to pass that information along. But I try to make it so that I call you, you don't call me. In other words, in a group setting, when I do group sessions, for me, I read everybody. I'm not going to go to a gallery reading and just pick people out of the audience that I feel needs a reading. For me, it's everybody. If you come, I want to be able to give you what I can give you. So it's at that point when I look at that individual, zero in, and then I kind of call their energy is when the energy comes to me. Okay. But as Richard said, when it gets strong enough, if somebody has a big enough message, absolutely do I get kind of hounded. I have referred to it before, but there was a scenario, a little while back where I had gone to the grocery store and I came in quickly and there was a murdered woman standing in blood outside the front of my door. And I had said to her, in my mind's eye, did this just happen? Do the police know? Have you been found? All of these things I ran through really quickly. And she answered yes to all of them. And she had no ill will. It wasn't as if it was like this cold case. They knew it happened. But she so happened to be for one of my clients during the week. And so I said to her, listen, you got to go. You can't stay here. When you're ready for the person that I'm supposed to read this week, then you come and stand behind her and I will know that she is for you. But she was so anxious to be able to get these messages that she never got to say, at the moment that she died, that you have to remember there's no such thing as time on the other side. So she was excited. She wanted to be able to get these messages. So I had to push her back and say, hey, thank you, but you can't come here. I don't allow entities in my house except for my office space. So, it does happen, but I really try to avoid those things.
Yeah, and it's just tough either way. But the thing of it is I've said this oftentimes to people when they ask me, what is it like to be a psychic medium? Well, the thing of it is that when you are a person that has that ability, they tend to want to be more attracted to you because you can see, feel, and hear. That is the reason why they come to you. They can tell, they know I'm here. And that's for them, that might be a rarity. because it may not have encountered a lot of people that can deliver a message. So when they've got somebody that can, it's like not being able to talk to your best friend for about 8 years, and all of a sudden you get somebody that's on the phone with me. Go, wait,
Right.
So it's hard. You gotta, you really have got to do that. Where you've got to kind of put them in line and go one at a time. When it's your time, it's your time. So Brenda asked a question I need you to answer because you're the crystal lady. Brenda says, what are your favorite crystals for meditation and connecting to your guides?
Okay, so crystals have different vibrations, and so we use different crystals for different methods. And let me tell you something. When I first started experimenting with crystals, I was really young, actually. I was probably, I'm going to say 12 years old when I got my very first, I was 9 when I got my first piece of obsidian, and I was 11 or 12 when I got my first quartz and amethyst. That really, I started kind of using them and knowing what they were for. But in terms of meditation, I always say selenite's really good. Selenite is really great for grounding. So it's something that is self-charging. It's water soluble, so you don't get it wet. It's good to have around you. I would say things like tourmaline. Tourmaline is really good for grounding. It helps to protect you for not allowing negative things to come in. I'm a big fan of this. As far as grounding, citrine. So citrine would be this stone here. Citrine is an orange stone that's really great for your root chakra and keeping you grounded. Labradorite is another one that I use quite often. So this is really good for kind of getting in touch with your physical side of your body. So say you're having a physical blockage and you're wanting to open that works. Lapis lazuli. So lapis, where's the piece of lapis? That's so right here. Here's a piece of lapis as I'm dropping it. So lapis lazuli is a blue stone. This is raw. This is actually right from Afghanistan, believe it or not. But this I use all the time. And it's really good for opening your mind to receiving more. Sodalite, so this actually comes from Ontario. This is a sodalite stone, very similar to lapis. This is really great for kind of team building and getting together. So say you're trying to open your mind to something that you're really not liking. You have a new project at work. Something like this is good. For your guides, quartz. Quartz is really great. Think of this as like a memory bank. Okay, quartz is really good. Amethyst is really good. So here's amethyst. Here's a piece of amethyst. That's really good for spiritual, opening up your third eye and kind of getting yourself open and heightening your vibration. Those are different stones. Now, everybody's got a different recipe. I'm not going to tell you somebody is right and somebody is wrong. If something resonates with you, if you pick up that stone, I always say the stone picks you, you don't pick the stone. If it's for me, if it burns in my hands, it doesn't want me. So I put it back down. I find something that I feel is going to connect for me, or it's going to feel good. You may actually feel a physical vibration of it in your hand. What do you feel? Do you feel sick? Do you feel calm? Do you feel as if you're vibrating? What are the things you're feeling when you're picking up these stones? And that's a real good indicator of what you need.
Right. And I'm glad you answered it because I am not the crystal person. You definitely are. Now, Nikki said, when you're in that connective state, is it normal to receive both audio and visual and sensory contacts? Not uncomfortable, just different. Hard to explain, but trying to reorganize it. It's not easy, but maybe I'm just reading too much into it. My opinion, and opinions are like what? Buttholes, right? Everyone's got one. So in my opinion, you're not reading too much into it. I think you're a little more newer. I think you're newer in your abilities, and it's a little much at times for you. But that's all part of the learning process. Everybody's got to start somewhere with it. So you'll have some entities, some contacts that'll appear. For me, they do the same thing. Sometimes they'll appear in like what looks like movie clips. I'll get like little movie clips. I'll get picture, like flashcards. I'll get audible. I'll get, sensory. It just depends on how they're able to contact, how they're able to transmit, how they want to reach you. It's really kind of up to them. It's not really up to you. And again, and Kate, I think, stated this earlier, It's really just on what their ability to do is. I've had people that get scared to death because they hear a growl. Well, I mean, honestly, there's a good chance that that's all that sprayer can do.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not a growl of say, hey, I'm trying to scare you. It's a growl of this is all I got. So I mean, it's just a matter of how you pick it up. And you're not reading too much into it. It's just you've got a lot going on with this, and you and I have talked about it before. And it's just a matter of taking your time and understanding they will reach out to you in any way they can. Any way they can. So it could be all three. Could be visual, could be audio, could be sensory. But it could be all three. But they will find a way to talk to you. They absolutely will.
And here's another thing. And they may use multiple things. So, during a reading, I may get, okay, so to break it down for people, there's different forms of downloads that you can get, okay? So, clairaudience. Richard just talked about clairaudience. Clairaudience means the active hearing. So you're audibly hearing it in your head as it's happening, okay? There's clairvoyance, which is the act of seeing. So as Richard had mentioned, you're seeing movie clips or quick images. You're able to see these things in your mind's eye, but also on a physical level, right? It can be either or. Then there's clairsentient, which means you're picking psychic smells up with your nose. I was having a conversation with somebody that lives halfway across the world, and this person is a smoker, and they lit up a cigarette, and I could smell it. Is it psychokinetic in the sense that I was picking up on a kinetic level, or was I psychically picking up on the cigarette smoke, but I was able to smell it? There's clairconscient, which is the act of knowing. So it sounds silly, but you don't know how you know. You just know. There's not a question in your mind. You just know the information. All of a sudden, you just know a different language. You may receive a word in a different language that you've never spoken before, or want to speak in an accent that you've never spoken in before. Those types of things happen. Your empathic abilities. So, all of a sudden you get emotional, or you're starting to feel the pain of somebody's going through. You may start to feel the physical pain or the emotional pain. There's many different antennas that we have, or that the body has an ability to utilize. And so you may not receive the information the same way every time. I've never done a reading the same way. I've never received information the same way 5 times. It's the way that the person wants to speak the language and how I interpret the information to give it to my audience. When you start doing these things, it's okay to download the information incorrectly. It's okay to do that. We all make mistakes. There are times where I've done readings for people and I first say something and I think, I'll give you an example. There was a gentleman who was standing, he had passed away, and he was trying to tell his daughter, he's standing outside her window. He's giving me in his mind eye, and he's showing me the eavesdrops, and he's pointing to the eavesdrops, and he's pointing to the window, and he's pointing to the eavesdrop, and he's pointing to the window. And I said to the lady, do you have something wrong with your eavesdrops? And she was like, I don't even have eavesdrops on my house. What he was trying to tell me, the closest connection he could get was, he's not eavesdropping on her. And he was playing the charade game. He's trying to get me to kind of pick a vowel. And he's standing at his window looking at her and pointing to the eavesdrop, which is different, but it's the closest thing that he could come to, he's showing me this in his eyes. He's showing me, and it wasn't his fault. It was my fault. I wasn't understanding it correctly. So sometimes, if you're seeing the red balloon and the purple dinosaur, don't question it. It's going to make sense when it's supposed to.
Right. Now, Nikki says and asks, if you do have a really direct personal encounter, then it's followed with vivid dreams. Not bad, just very detailed. What would you think about this, or how to proceed, if at all? I would have to learn more about what the contact is. That's my personal opinion. Detailed contact is detailed or direct personal encounter. You're going to have to come across a little clearer for me on that one, because that would be able to help me discern whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Just depends on what the direct personal encounter was. I know you said the dreams aren't bad, but what would be the reasoning for the personal encounter? Was there a message delivered? Things like that. So, let us know, or if you want to run it as an aside, and send us a message together or something afterwards, you can do that too. But, direct encounters are different. and I get it, but sometimes they're not good. So yeah, I'd be
But
happy to hear more about it.
and that can also mean an attachment, right? So say you go to a haunted location, you're having these occurrences, you witness this woman standing there, and then the next thing you're dreaming about her a week later and you can't get her out of your head. That can be a form of an attachment. So it's really important that, if somebody enters into your dream state, they've entered your body. Grandma isn't going to, unless she was bad in life, she's not going to try and scare you in death. And it goes the same for other people. If you're starting to feel uncomfortable in these dreams, it's really important to kind of get your power back and close those doors and say you're not welcome here. If it is, you had mentioned in the comments that it's not a bad dream, but they're just vivid dreams. They may be desperately trying to get messages across to people, and they know that you can see them. When you have psychic abilities and you're aware of these psychic abilities, you're like a lighthouse, on a dark ocean. You're a beacon for these things. And so they know you're their payphone. They know that they can communicate with you, and they're hoping that you're going to convey these messages. So it really comes down to what you're comfortable with. Are you comfortable with conveying these messages? Does it overwhelm you? Does it intimidate you? That's where you got to go from. And if it doesn't, and you're willing to kind of take that risk, don't be afraid to communicate more, but set your perimeters and your precedents of what you're going to accept and what you're not.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, and then people are talking about the stones, and Ellen made some funny comment about it. Her husband is getting tired of rolling over in the bed at night onto the stones that she had in the bed with her. That happens, Terry, you'll be all right. Don't worry about it. But, as far as, seeing all these different signs, everything too, guys, you got to also remember, again, I know I overstate this probably way more than I should. Protect yourself in everything you do. Whatever you do consciously in the paranormal, protect yourself. We were at an investigation, a public event, and one person in particular became a victim. They were the weak link, and that's why I say that term loosely. They were the weak link, and they got picked on by an entity in the building who I removed afterwards because I'm not going to accept that kind of behavior. So, it's just be careful. I mean, I know a lot of guys and gals that are on here right now, and a lot of you guys are running out and doing tours and everything. That's cool, but please watch your back. We have a tour coming up in May. We're doing an investigation at Octagon Hall. Can't wait. That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
But yeah, just watch yourselves.
Nadine, I should, I think you brought up a really good point. You said I sleep with certain crystals in my bed too, and my husband doesn't mind. So Richard, you comment on that, but it's really important. No matter what crystal you're using, unless it is self-charging like selenite, or you accompany the crystals together with selenite to recharge them and cleanse them, that you don't keep them for too long, because everything will take on your vibrational frequency. And it's important that you go through cleansing principles to make sure that they're recalibrated and they're doing the job that they're supposed to do. Okay, they all get muddy, they all get clouded. So don't be afraid to put them on your windowsill on a full moon. If they're water soluble, you don't want to get them wet, but you can soak them in sea salt. You can soak them in water or put them outside. There's certain things that you can do to recharge them and bring them, kind of refresh them, bring them back to where they're supposed to be. But a lot of people, when you spend that many hours, so let's think about it. The average sleep time is 7 to 8 hours a night. If you're doing that in a week's time, that's a lot of hours you spent with your crystals. Sometimes that can actually cause problems. There are certain tektites which are different than crystals. Tektites are basically extraterrestrial in origin. In other words, they came from a meteor or came from the sky. Certain tektites like moldavite, they're very high vibrational, and they're a purging stone. So using them for long periods of time can actually cause heart attacks, strokes. You can cause ailments or cause issues because it's your way of your body's purging things. So I encourage you to be careful. Really research which stones you're going to be using if you're going to be using them for long periods of time.
Yeah, and again, just again, watch yourselves. Now, Tom said, I hope my spiritual energy would be strong to not get affected by negative thoughts or energy. So here's another reason why, again, I'm a big, firm believer in resetting your energy. Reset that bugger as often as you can. Because if you don't reset your energy, there's something I call paranormal sludge. There's negative paranormal sludge. You'll pick it up from locations you go to. You'll pick it up from people. You'll pick it, and once in a while, you just got to reset your energy. People who have abilities, in my mind, should probably do a salt bath probably once a month. I know it sounds like a lot, but think about it. It's you come in contact every day with something negative. I know you do. We all do, right? Somebody or something negative. After a while of going into buildings, yada, 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 you pick up some more negative sludge. Eventually, you got to reset your energy because you'll just take that on like a weight. And if you don't eventually set your energy, that energy will breed other energy. And then you got concerns. So, I mean, there's no harm, no foul with you resetting your energy to keep everything kind of aligned because you really need to. I'm just a real big proponent of people resetting their personal energy. I think it's ultra important. Katie had talked about salt baths. Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of salt baths. Again, I bring my rubber ducky and we go. But, but I would tell you salt baths are important. Ellen said I have selenites and charging bowls and sage. I use my amethyst to sleep better. Okay. Have you heard about these charging bowls?
Absolutely, yes. So you can use charging bowls, charging plates. Basically, they're carved out pieces of selenite. This is kind of selenite in its raw form. So it's, I don't know if you can see it, but this is broken off, what it looks like when it's broken off. But it kind of goes like this. And it's clear. In fact, this right here, this lamp, where am I? On this side, that is a selenite lamp. And basically, it helps to cleanse and recharge. It's really good when you put other crystals with selenite. It kind of it charges things. It kind of brings them back to zero, recalibrates them so that they're working properly. So you don't have to put them on a full moon or out on your windowsill and stuff like that. But no, they work absolutely. You don't have to have a bowl though. You can use putting them together.
Nadine. Yeah. Nadine said I do put them in moonlight and salt water both. Thank you. I appreciate your advice. I thank you both. Not a problem. That's what we're here for. Again, we really hope by this show, guys, that you'll find something maybe to pass along to a friend, or maybe you find the information worthy to share on your page. This is really all designed just to help people out. We don't do this for our own pleasure. There's something else I could be doing on a Sunday night. So we are doing this for you guys. So hopefully
anything else I'd rather be doing on a Sunday night but hanging out with you guys. Just saying.
Well, yeah, just saying. But we're doing it to try to help you guys out. So if it does and you want to share the show, we really appreciate it. All right, so now Nadine wants to know, what do you think about Epsom salts?
That's a great question. Epsom salts are a magnesium. It's a type of magnesium, right? So it's not necessarily the same. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but you're better to use sea salts, or Himalayan salt, or I don't care. Up here in Canada, we use iodized road salt. Though I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I would tell you, I think that would have a better cleansing practice principle than Epsom salts. Epsom salts are good for soaking and muscles and all that stuff. It's not a bad thing at all. It's a wonderful thing, but you would use it for different applications.
Yeah, and again, you can get a container of sea salt from Walmart. I think it's like $2.70, $2.70 US. That works for a while. But yeah, I would definitely use sea salt for a salt bath before I would use Epsom salt. They're different applications completely. Katie's right. Different applications. Thank you, Nadine. She said she looks forward to Sunday nights with you too. Thank you. Yeah. We appreciate that. Now, Ellen. Yeah. Ellen says, I also have acupressure mats to lay on. Terry, that's her husband, says that the mat is too much for him to handle, but I find it relaxing to lay on. What is that, like nails? What is that, like nails, Ellen? What are you doing, Ellen? I've known Ellen now for a few years. She's an excellent lady and an excellent worker, and serves a mean cup of coffee at Waffle House. But I'm like, Ellen, what are you sleeping on, girl? I mean, do you go to Home Depot to build these things? I mean, what acupressure? If I step on a Lego at night, you've crippled me for a week. What? How are you sleeping on this stuff, girl? Get a Lord acupressure. Stop.
You know, everybody,
Ow.
it's important that when you're working on these abilities to be patient. Please be patient. If I, again, had a nickel for every time someone said, when am I going to get better? I'm still working on it. You're never going to be an expert. You're never going to know it all. You're always going to be a student. So the faster that you accept that and realize that you're not going to know everything, you're not going to get the answers that you want all the time, I think the easier the information is going to be. Okay. If you have experienced a loved one that's passed away and you desperately want to work on these abilities because of this loved one, and you're hell-bent for election, that's what you want to be able to communicate and receive messages, the faster that you can accept their death, and go through that emotional turmoil, which we all do, we all will, the easier the information is going to be for you to download. Okay. So people say to me all the time, I lost my mother. I can't, she hasn't given me a sign, it's heartbreaking. I just want to know she's okay. I'm not sleeping at night, and her death was rough and I feel so guilty. And all of these emotions, these physical emotions you're experiencing, it's going to make it harder for her to come through. It's not as if she's ignoring you or not wanting to send you messages. It comes down to the fact that you are blocked off from her. And she really wants to let you know, but unfortunately, she can't get through. So you really got to kind of calm down a little bit, relax, let your body go through the physical trauma, pain, the mourning of what you're going through. And once you've accepted, unfortunately, that death or that passing, with time, she'll be able to come through a little bit easier. Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to go through. Now, Joshua says that the acupressure mats are wonderful for muscle injuries. Okay. Did not know that. But I am one of those people. If I step, there's a little dog around here somewhere. He weighs about 6 pounds. He has a pork chop bone. I've stepped on that at 2 a.m.
Like Lego pieces.
I can't do an acupressure. Huh?
It's like Lego pieces. Right?
Oh, I can't do that either. I am not designed to sleep on anything sharp or step on anything sharp. It is not a pleasant experience. But God bless you if you have to. We've got a few more folks in here. Okay, well, no, the question stopped. Wow, it's on us now. We actually have to do our job. Wait, oh, there we go. Yeah, Ellen says it's a mat with hard plastic needles that don't puncture skin. It's like acupuncture, but no needles. And you only lay on it for 10 to 15 minutes, but I have fallen asleep on it a few times.
That's cool. I love acupuncture. I think that's one of the best experiences I ever had. One of the best meditation and astral travel experiences I ever had was during an acupuncture session. My Chinese medicine doctor left me for a couple hours with the needles in, and I was face down going through it, and I had a really incredible experience. And I don't necessarily, if you're looking to do astral travel or dimensional shifts, I don't encourage you to do it through your Chinese medicine doctor, but nonetheless, it was a really awesome experience.
Now, Lori says, I believe on the other side, time does not exist as we know it. You're absolutely right.
Agreed.
Yeah, time was designed for the physical world for our benefit, not for the other side. Mm-hmm. For us, what feels like 15 years for them can feel like 15 minutes. Or, as I was seeing in some cases, sadly, 8 years can seem like 80. It depends. I've had many communications with people and conversations with clients that They had a house that was active and nobody, had any interaction with the dead. They were all like, oh, that never happened. And, they went on about ignoring the entire experience. It turned out it was an aunt that had passed, that had lived in the house at one time. And it was just kind of one of those things where it was actually sad because, the aunt was trying to get their attention just to let them know she was there. So now you think about it, you're a spirit on the other side. You're in a place that you're familiar with, family home, family business, whatever. The people that are ignoring your existence, how lonely are you? That's lonely. So with enough surety for me to tell the lady, by the way, it's your Aunt Joy that has come through and is trying to get your attention. I don't see any problem with you coming into the room going, hi, Aunt Joy, I just want to say hi. Sometimes that's all it takes. But we have to understand for them is a very weird. I actually had a spirit one time tell me that, who was a doctor, that being on the other side is similar to being on Demerol here. It's confusing. You feel really out of sorts. And then now you've got to deal with where you're at, what's happened, and then you got this guy coming in, calling you this, calling you that, wanting you to dance like a monkey on a stage in your own house. So, so there are a lot of things to consider before we do this kind of stuff. I know it's kind of a weird take on it, but that's the truth that I see. I've had many spirits that'll come by and talk to me because thank God somebody was willing to. Yep. I mean, it's just all a matter of respect, but you've got to communicate. Once you know who it is, I don't find any harm nor foul having a monologue, not a dialogue, having a monologue with the dead. I think for them, it's definitely an issue of, hey, I just want you to know I'm here, especially with family ties.
Mm-hmm. So
with soul ties that are family.
Yeah. Here's something really cool about time. Richard had mentioned that time is what we have in the physical realm. Absolutely. But here's another cool thing. In my experience, when we reincarnate, which meaning we come back life after life through soul contracts and through learning spiritual growth, we don't come back on a linear time frame. So people don't realize this. When you reincarnate, you may reincarnate back to 1500. You may reincarnate back to 1200 AD or, 90 years ago. You don't reincarnate to the next level and the next level and the next level. There's past lives that come forward, and so a lot of times when people do past life regressions, they don't realize, they'll skip from life to life to life. It's not a linear thing. Time. In terms of the other side, time is, again, something that they utilize to give us messages. So they're aware of time. They know it exists. They know that we deal with it on a time frame basis every day. And so they use that time on this realm to give us messages, okay? But sometimes they're off on time frames. So you may want an answer to something. You may ask the spirit to give you, a sign or give you something. They may not be able to give it to you for a little while. That's a reality. That happens. It's not necessarily snap your fingers and they're able to answer. So again, patience is something that we need, but absolutely, Lori, to answer your question, time is not what we experience on the other side. Now, I should go into that in time. So as a paranormal investigator, you can kind of counteract that. So we say that there's no such thing as time on the other side, but you go to a haunted location, you pull out some equipment, and you have a spirit looking at you like you have 3 heads. They think you're a witch because you have all of this equipment, okay? And they don't know what it is. That is not the other side, okay? That is a ghost, or that is an entity that has chosen or has been confused into staying in the earth realm, and they're only thinking of their thoughts in that past life. They're not consciously aware of the other side or of who they were in the past, okay? They only remember that specific life, and because they're still earthbound or they're still grounded to that specific time and place, what you're using, they're not going to understand what it is. So let's go, think about our great-grandparents, okay, our great-great-grandparents, showing them a cell phone, they're not going to understand it. And so that's the kind of mind frame that they're in, is if they're in that earth plane at that time. when Richard and I talk about there's no such thing as time on the other side, that means that we are not having a physical death. We are not going through the process of aging, growing, and dying. Okay, that cyclical process doesn't happen. So that linear time that we're experiencing of going from child to adult to old age to death, birth to death, that doesn't exist. So there's no such thing in terms of a ghost could be there for 500 years, but the ghost may be stuck in that time frame for 500 years. It doesn't mean that they are going to grow with us. When you go to the other side, you're not going to be necessarily at the age of when you died. So my grandfather, he is not the age that he is, but he comes back to me in that age, so I would recognize him, because I wouldn't know who he is if he came to me at 20 years old. So he uses that to kind of come through. He uses time to his advantage, but it's really not time. It's perception.
It is. And you go further into perception and you talk about how sometimes I've seen spirits appear to me when they were in their teens, how they appear later on, and it rarely is it in their death state, which is good. I'm not a real big believer that the spirit is in a good place and all it will do is present in its death state. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good place for it at all.
Right.
You know, they've got they want to present in a way that is not only comfortable for you, but comfortable for them. I mean, that's just the way I see it. In that consciousness, they don't want to show you what they might have looked like in death. That's not a pretty sight.
No.
They want you to, remember them as the way they want to present. And I've had one particular entity actually appear in 3 different age settings. It was the craziest experience I've had. It was the same spirit. It was odd. It was all in one night. It was a Hell's Bar Dam.
Wow.
And it was all in one night. It was insane. Absolutely insane. I'd never seen anything like it. But, that's just kind of the thing. It's if you get, to me, when you get a spirit when you get someone that appears in their death state, I kind of have to wonder if they can't get out of that realm, that they're locked into that realm. And that's a suffering. To me, that's a suffering. When they don't have the ability to change their outward appearance or their projection, that's sad. I mean, who wants to constantly look like you were when you died? Yeah. That's horrible. But it happens. Right. I mean, it does happen. So then Nadia is saying, basically on your point, she's saying, are you saying that a child remains a child in the afterlife? I heard that they age progress.
No. Okay, so let's put it into perspective. I'm Katie in this life. Okay, I chose the name, the body. Laugh it up. I chose all of this for this life, okay, as part of my soul contract, including the people I've been reincarnated with. Richard being one of them. Richard is part of my incarnation process, and he's been brought to me. Our spirits made a contract, or decided we were going to teach each other something during the process of incarnation, and that's why we are all together. This is why you're sitting here watching me, and I'm sitting here watching you. Everybody in the audience, we're all brought together for this purpose. But right. I'm only Katie this is my vessel. Okay, my soul does not necessarily look like this, and my soul isn't necessarily. I'm going to say I'm 29. I'm lying, but I'm 29 for the sake of this conversation. So for I'm going to say that's my meat suit. That's has nothing to do with my intellect or my spiritual growth on the other side. So to say that a child can grow, really you're taking yourself out of the vessel. Okay, so think of the vessel being the car. It can idle empty, but when the car doesn't have any function anymore, the car can't run. So why would you get in and try and drive it? And that's the same type of thing that occurs on the other side. So in terms of growth, yes, a growth occurs, but that child is going to come to you and appear to you as they feel that you would recognize them. Okay, so they may come to you a little bit older. My grandfather doesn't come to me the way he looked when he died. He comes to me when he was at his healthiest, but I still recognize him. Okay.
Right.
I didn't know my grandfather when he was 20. I wouldn't know who he is. So he comes to me and resonates in that manner so that I am not overwhelmed, intimidated, scared, frightened, that I feel welcoming to him and he can give me the messages he needs to give me. The same thing goes for children. There is a growth process that happens. So they may appear a few years later. Oftentimes when I read for people and they've had a child that's died, the child usually comes to me in the age that they either passed away or how many years since they would have been, if that makes sense. So, if it was 23 years ago that they died, they'll come to me at 23. Those types of things. But it's usually within messages. If some psychic ever tells you that these epic messages are from the other side, in my opinion, in my experience, no, 90% of the time, those entities are telling you something that I would never be able to know, that I couldn't get off the internet, that I couldn't get off of a picture, that I couldn't get off, that's going to validate that is who, in fact, I am communicating with to give you the closure or you the answers of the questions that you seek. So to answer that question, yes, they do age, but it's not as you think they're aging.
Right, exactly. Because I had that one case I had talked about where this child that died in utero. Okay, in utero, the child died. The child presents to me as a young teenager. Right. But that's how they choose to present.
Yes.
And that's what we have to understand. It's not the fact that they continue to age as a soul. They continue to age to where they want to present. And that's something that we have to remember too, because it's, they would be 59 today if they were alive. Well, no, not to them. Most likely they're not going to present to you at 59 years old. If that's what they would have been 20 years later. They can present to you, like Katie said, sometimes at the age of their death, and sometimes at the age it's a little later maybe, but it's really up to them. I mean, that level of energy is allowing them to be able to present the way they want to. I like it. I think it's great that they're allowed to present themselves. In most scenarios, they're able to present themselves to you how they feel it should be. That's for your benefit. That is not for theirs. That is for your benefit. I think the consciousness gets some receipt if you have a visitation. I think the consciousness for the spirit of the person you're seeing is some receipt of the joy you get when you see them.
Right.
In their whole state. I think that is something that they, that actually, to me, it's hard to understand and say possibly, but to me, that's what pleases the spirit. Is they're able to actually appear to you and you're accepting. Because a lot of times, and it's funny, I know Katie's done cases where there's residents that people are scared to death. Something's on the hallway and it knocks on the wall, or something's in the hallway and, it touches my arm. And then they come to find out later on the road it's Grandpa Joe. Now all of a sudden, I'm okay with it. Well, the honesty of it is the only thing we're really afraid of is the unknown. I mean, if you've got soul ties with family members, you're not going to punk kick them out of the house, right? So we just need to, try to find out the best way we can of who we're dealing with. And, then that'll help along the way of being able to identify who you're talking to and things like that. Crystal said, weird is the new normal. You're in the paranormal. That is weird. That is the new normal.
Own it. Own it. Own it. Own it.
Own it.
It's okay.
It is the only way to be. I don't think I could ever live a normal life. I think that would be boring as hell for me. And then I've been in situations, to be honest with you, as weird as all this is, I relish in it that I have kids that are interested in this because I want to be able to hand down a legacy. Something for them to continue on, so to speak, for the old man when he goes. But there are also some people you're going to hide this from. I had attended a church once, and I had literally sat down with the pastor of the church and just told him point blank, look, I speak to the dead. I'm a psychic medium. I do active investigations. This is not what you want in your church. I get it. But that is who I am. I'm not going to hide myself for anybody. Yeah. And what was odd is that they did an Easter parade or an Easter play, and they wanted me to record the play with my cameras that I investigate with and the recorders that I investigate with. And then when they saw the name on the side of the camera that said the Haunted Travelers, people in the audience are like, what is that? Well, it was good enough to record your Easter play, wasn't it? And there you have it. I'm that kind of guy. I don't give a damn. But I will not hide myself from anybody. So yes, this is a weird world, but you gotta be who you are. You gotta be true to yourself. Joshua says the most important thing is that they have control, and we know they are happy, and recognize them even if we don't remember them at a certain age, or they choose to show themselves as they want to be seen at that time. Acceptance is a lot for both sides of the fence. Like I said, the biggest fear is the unknown. Okay, so if you have a situation where you finally figure out who's inhabiting the house, or whatever, okay, it's a lot easier on both of you. The actions are different, the behaviors are different now, so we get it. We get it. Like I said, it's Grandpa Joe, or it's somebody else. But when you get a drill down of who it is, because we all know that family ties don't separate, they don't. You're going to have a hard time getting rid of a family member. The problem with that is even if that family member was a jerk in life, you're still going to have a hard time getting rid of that family member. So good luck with that. That's just something to remember too. But for us, it's always, to me, the most important part is getting to know and remember who you're dealing with, and try to get to know. Just don't go on blind faith that everything's trying to kill you. Okay, because a lot of the time, I don't think Aunt Bessie was going to want to kill you. But it might be Aunt Bessie who's in your house. You just never know until you find out. And we're coming down close to our time. Wow.
Yep. I know. Always fun.
3 minutes to go.
Now, Francine's got a question real quick. Why would a person that tragically died in a homicide seems to never be able to tell a psychic who is responsible for the death? That's a great question. So, in a lot of circumstances, they can. It's number one. But you have to understand that there's a whole world involved in a birth and a death. It doesn't make sense now. It's morbid. It's unfair. Why would someone ever be murdered? But there's a greater good in the lessons learned in that death. There's never a death in vain. Okay? And I say that because there's the police, there's the ambulance, there's the doctors, there's the funeral home, there's the family, maybe it's the family has to learn forgiveness. And that's I'm not condoning the behavior, agreeing with the behavior, saying it should happen, but I'm telling you there's a much bigger, greater good lesson that occurs with these things. So it's unfortunate, but sometimes it's got to happen that way. And there are instances where, yes, I have worked with people and I have been able to uncover it. I have been able to say, I've been able to point my finger. Now, me saying as a psychic medium who the killer is and the justice system convicting that person are two separate things. Okay. Yeah. The justice system is built on the best evidence and proving innocence and proving guilt. It's not about whether a psychic comes up and says, for me to go onto a stand and say, I see this guy because I saw it in my head. Like on a literal basis, how would that ever fly? Right. So yeah, it does happen. Right. You can pick up, you can pick that stuff up, but no, sometimes you can't.
It's, again, if we knew everything we should know about the paranormal, boy, there wouldn't be any questions, would there?
Right.
For us to be able to understand. I had somebody had a discussion with me the other day about shadow people. We don't know jack squat about shadow people. No. And, what we know can fill a thimble. That is the reality of it. And I was showing Laura the other day a video where the shadow person was just following this lady outside of her house. Literally, if she moved, he moved. If she moved, he moved. It was crazy. But that's, again, why would that behavior make sense? He doesn't approach her. He doesn't, but I'm saying he because, the figure presented like about 6'4", 6'5". So again, why would he not approach her? Why would he? It was odd, but shadow people are odd. Well, guys, we've come to the end of it. We appreciate you all very much.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you being out here. And we do hope to see you again soon. Thank you guys for all the interaction. Thank you for all the questions. It means a lot to us. It really does. And we do hope to see you guys next time around.
Now,
have a good night. Have a good week.
Guys, this next Sunday, remember, it's Easter weekend, so there will not be a show next week.
Nope.
But the week after,
Good.
we'll be
Thank
coming
you.
back. But we should say really quick, we're going to be on with Into the Fire this Tuesday night. So come and join us,
Tuesday night.
8:45 Eastern, right? 9 o'clock Eastern?
Yeah, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central on Tuesday nights, and a show called Into the Fire with a couple of 3 friends of ours. Great folks we've had on the show. They've asked us to come back on the show again, so we are. We hope to see you all there. And guys, be good to yourselves and take care.
Bye.
Bye, guys.